This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Ahoy! Captain David Gallimore welcomes you aboard the Regenerate Show, live Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com. We dive into the real messy work of transforming our lives, leadership, and organizations. Bring your hot mess and confusion. Leave with clarity, courage, and confidence. Together, let's strengthen our resilience, accelerating the health of ourselves, people, planet, and profits. Now, here's your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard!
Ahoy! I am so excited to welcome you to the 5th episode of Regenerate. Our theme this week is Purpose Over Podium. In this show, we're navigating the topic of high performance with Yannick Lefebvre from Belgium. He's an Olympic sailor and a high-performance coach. And we're going to be sharing authentic stories about navigating the messy middle of identity shifts and challenges to creating breakthroughs that deliver even higher performance than you ever thought possible. And of course, if you're a guest of this show, you know that we're going to have a lot of fun, because our promise to you is when we're laughing, we're learning. We want to leave you inspired, and most importantly, we want to leave you empowered to not just survive, but to flourish. And especially with the news over the weekend, there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So I invite you to grab some paper, digital or old school, and a pen so you can review and apply maybe one thing that resonated the most for you, because transformations happen here. So I'd like to introduce Yannick. He's an Olympic level athlete who leverages high performance sailing as a laboratory. Love that, for personal growth, resilience, and leadership. He's a leadership and high performance coach with QLX, working with business leaders, young talent, executives, sports, high-performing sports athletes, translating lessons from the water into practical tools for life and work. And he's really passionate about helping next-generation leaders develop self-awareness, adaptability, and courage through experiential learning, and of course, sport. And I think sport has so much to offer leadership lessons. Yannick advocates for purpose over podium, separating identity from medals while still pursuing world-class results and his ambitious campaigns. And he combines Olympic-level performance expertise and experience together with his academic education to assist people in their transformations. And if you've been a listener to the show, you'll know that we're defining transformation as becoming who you were meant to become. So it is a passion to be of value to others on their journey towards their goals and fulfillment. A kindred spirit. Please welcome Yannick to our show.
Hi, Dave.
So glad you're here. I know with the time zone change and all that's going on in the world, I really appreciate you being here on the show today. So
my pleasure. Happy to be here.
I'm so glad. To get the fun started, what's that one thing that you love to be or do that gives you the most joy in your life?
Actually, it's a bit contradictory, as I am a sailor and actually love sailing and passionate about sailing. But what I love to do the most is get up in the mountains, and that's where I feel quite at ease, relaxed, and inspired. It inspires me. The mountains in the summer and the winter, and if I can add a nice hot coffee to that, and some good talks makes it totally worth it. Yes.
Well, you and I share three interests as a fellow sailor. 63,000 nautical miles now and 5 ocean adventures, including a visit with a Coast Guard helicopter when my wife's and my Jeanneau 43 sprang a leak 200 miles off the Oregon coast. Great epic adventures. And I too love the mountains, hiking and snowboarding and skiing. I think a lot of sailors actually do like the surf and turf. And of course, a good cup of coffee.
Yes, and yeah, and the nature. It comes down to the nature. I think the connection with the nature and the views, being able to watch far away the imperfection of the nature, and being able to just enjoy that, and yeah, it gives me energy, and that's interesting.
Yeah, I think you're right. To offset all of our screens and all of the pressures of the day-to-day living, being out in the messy middle of nature and seeing, as you say, stepping back and looking at the patterns, there's a lot of beauty, but then you zoom in and there's all sorts of dead leaves and dead branches and dead carcasses. I mean, nature is messy, but it all works, doesn't it? So before your high performance,
What if I can add
please.
on to that, what's really nice is the inspiration you get from nature. Is you don't, you have some situations, issue, problems, whatever, but how the brain works, it's nice to let it go and be in the nature, and you come back with much more creativity. And that's, I cannot name any sources, but I've read something that kids that went into nature compared to kids that stay inside, they give to a certain test or certain questions, they get much more creative answers. And that's what I also like, is like, I'm, I don't like the fixed structure. I like to go out in nature to come back with something, to leave it be, and to be creative and be stronger when I come back. And that's something, that's the one thing, the one important idea, that it's really important, instead of like trying to think really hard about it, but still be in a cage and not moving forward.
I'll tell you, I have had so many similar breakthroughs in nature, bringing a problem that I just could not resolve. Often human relationship problems that I couldn't resolve. I call them polarities to manage. And you're right, leaving those problems back at home and going out into nature and just seeing the expansiveness and realizing, okay, are my problems really that big compared to this vista that I'm looking at? Or of course the ocean, as you know well, it's vast. It's very humbling to be on the ocean. And yeah, good on you to share that strategy. I think, and we'll add to the show notes the research. Blue zones are those places in the world where people are living, over 100 years old, way more per capita. But there's something called green zones, which are, like you were saying, nature, parts of just walking in nature or sailing in nature. It really doesn't matter what you do as long as you're looking at the water or looking at the mountains or being in the forest. It's grounding. It settles us. Anything else you want to add before we ask about your origin story?
Like you say, it's being, it's like being in the nature and being in the moment. What I would say is like, we talk about the nature, but I think the movement of the body is also important. And when I feel down and I have it's a strength and also a weakness. I doubt myself. I doubt myself really a lot, which is a strength because I can think what I'm doing and reinvent myself, but it's also a weakness because it's, yeah, I doubt myself quite a lot. But when I have those moments, I know I need to get out and start to move, and then the mind will follow the body. Because when you're down and looking at the mountain, you often, or I often think the solution will be somewhere here inside. So I start to dig and to dig deeper, and yeah, that's a was a big learning point for me. To I know I have to get out and not think about it anymore, and to come back fresh.
Yes. And one of our favorite people, Bert Eckert, who you know well, he was talking about that mind, energy, body kind of triad, that if you want to change your attitude, change your emotions, move the body, and the body will send new signals to the brain and quiet our emotional system.
Good point.
So always want to give our listeners just a little bit of a deeper dive into who you are. So before your executive coaching, before your Olympic sailing, what life experiences forged you into becoming the person you've become so far?
I would say my education was rather loose, which there again was positive in the sense that I had to search for my own values and fail and come back and find my own way. But yeah, that made who I am, in the sense that it was really important for me to discover what is important for me, and it was not the parents that say, hey, that's important for you or important for us. That was more loose, so I had to discover that myself. But the most important thing from my education is what I got is do what you love to do.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of things to say about my education or my parents or how it went, and but that's something I'm really grateful for. And I can come back home with whatever plan, or if it doesn't work or I don't like to do it, okay, let's move on. And then for me, in that discovery, what I would like to do is really important, because you, as a person, when you want to do something new, you get discomfort. But is it
Yes.
discomfort because it's really bad for you, or is it discomfort because you're a little bit scared because it's new? And that's a really thin balance, and something I still need to learn. And and like you made the link already, that's something I also, through sailing, I learned this as well, because a lot of people want to do stuff and then they get a bit scared, and then they sometimes invent a story, or the body invents a story, or the mind invents a story why it shouldn't be good. But it's often this discomfort, and that's something, trying to lean into that and to discover, yeah, but is it really discomfort, or it's a bit just scared of the unknown? And in the past I was really scared of the unknown, because I had this perfection mindset. I wanted to be perfect, to be, so that the, yeah, my parents would say, hey, good job, or doing well. But I totally I needed to switch that to the growth, and to the growth mindset, and that's what helped me grow, and that's what's most important for me at this point, is growing. And and that's in all aspects of life.
Wow. You're really inspiring me with sharing what you've just shared. I think there's so many interesting threads that we could pull out. The first one that I'd love to pull out with you is what a gift your family environment gave you, which was unlike my parents, who viewed me as a lump of clay to be molded and shaped. They wanted me to be a mathematician and then a lawyer. So there were interesting expectations. Um, and I'm sure your parents also had fairly high expectations to live a happy, healthy life. And you had a lot of freedom to explore. What a gift.
Exactly. And sometimes I think I'm not a parent. I hope to be one someday. But I can imagine that if you want to do something really well, you want to do it really well and give all what you can do, and that sometimes it's better to let go. um, and that's not easy. Sometimes it's better to leave it as it is and not trying to control everything. Um, and yeah, the control. I People like to control stuff to feel at ease, but it's really important as a person to trying to identify, is it your fear that you try to lean into your fear to get some control for that, or what are you creating with your control? Is it value? Is it because otherwise you cannot sleep when you think a bit too much? That's also an interesting point. So actually, I'm trying. In the most things I try to say is that it's a balance. It's not like a fixed 3 points and you will be happy, but you need to be able to listen to the signals of your mind and your body to live to live yeah purposefully and in balance.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that balance. So that's kind of the second thread that I wanted to tease out. Is it true, as it was when I was growing up, that your parents probably said, "Hey, Yannick, uh, after school, get out of the house." We didn't have screens when I was growing up. I suspect you had some screens, but not smartphones. Um, and we were told, come back before dinner, come back before it's dark. And literally, we made our fun and talk about doing crazy stuff that was scary, but I didn't know necessarily, how dangerous it was. But we figured it out, and playing with other kids our age in the neighborhood, we kind of had each other's back. But we were problem solving, we were negotiating conflict, we were creating our own agenda for the afternoon, early evening, and that's one of the biggest changes that I'm seeing in our society. And when you do have kids, uh, I think it's super hard, but super valuable. I talked to Barrett about how he's raising his two boys, and Mathieu, his boys and new girl, uh, to allow them freedom, to not have everything overscheduled and overplanned, so they can then find that balance for them. Thoughts about that?
Yes, that what you did when you played outside is experience, first of all. Probably you were need to imagine and be creative
Yeah.
to be able to play. And I've read something interesting that it's even better for kids to sometimes play with some not dangerous, but some garbage, something that really doesn't look anything, but they make something out of it instead of the most beautiful playgrounds. It's that yeah, it's this creativity is really
Cardboard
important.
boxes, Yannick. You know, when you buy a refrigerator or some kind of an appliance and you have a cardboard box,
Yeah,
we would create tunnels with, you know, series of
exactly.
cardboard boxes. Yeah, adventures.
And you had the best of time with it. And what strikes me as third point is the making memories. When I really, for me, it's really interesting the knowledge and the wisdom that the elderly have, because they can look back at an, at their life. So I'm really try to ask or listen when I can about their lessons, and often it's like, do what you love, or don't don't lose too much time to say sorry, or stuff like that. And the making memories is important. And making memories you do by doing things differently today than yesterday. Otherwise, you will not remember it.
Yeah.
And so a new thing, a new experience. That's really important to break with patterns. I the patterns, I like to recognize them, but I don't like to be if you're in the same pattern. And again, it can be sometimes a strength to automatize some things, but can also be a weakness that you're not at the lookout for the new stuff. Be creative. So there again, it's the strength and weakness that you need to know which is what, and when to use which strategy.
Well, I think we're seeing a theme coming out of our conversation so far, which is this finding balance. And I'd love to explore that a little bit more after the break, which is going to start in about 2 minutes. Can you help our listeners understand how you got into Olympic sailing?
My father makes the sails for the bigger boats and small boats and everything in the middle. And so when he went for putting a new sail on the boat, and he dropped me off at the at the small lake at home, and there it was all just about fun. And it was crab fishing, was jumping in the water, was capsizing with the boats, it was experimenting, discovering, jump and kayaking, do all sorts of sports. That's how I get into it, but by pleasure, having fun. And while having fun, I started sailing, and as I had fun, I sailed quite a lot, much, quite some, much more than other kids would do. And then my level automatically got better. And then from the fun, then came the competition. But it was not the competition and then the fun. It was the fun, and then the success came behind it. And that's what I try to tell the young sailors as well, who are fully into it and they want to do it perfectly, and they are so focused on the results that their mind is already consumed by the results, and not trying to just like being, like we talked in the beginning, being in the boat and being one with the wind. um, that's one important lesson that what I try to I try to tell them.
So, if you're receiving insights from our conversation, I invite you to join my Regenerate community on Substack called Regeneration in Real Life, where I'm able to go into a lot more detail with my guests on the themes you've heard on this show. We'll be right back after this valuable offer. Please stay tuned for more of Yannick's insights and wisdom.
You're listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave, your personal regenerator on K4HD Radio. We'll be right back. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you ready to regenerate and live the life of your dreams? Start the transformation now. Call Captain Dave at 253-237-2558. Stop overthinking. Again, call 253-237-2558 or go to regenerativeworldgroup.com to book a free, no-obligation clarity call. Let's get back to Regenerate right here on K4HD Radio for more life-changing transformations. Here's your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator.
Welcome back. If you're just now joining, I've been speaking with Yannick Lefebvre, an Olympic-level athlete who leverages high-performance sailing as a laboratory for personal growth, resilience, and leadership. He's also a leadership and high-performance coach with QLX. And we've been talking about the theme, purpose over podium. But really, what I love about these conversations, Yannick, is we've been talking a little bit more about balance. And before the break, you shared how important it was to just be brought into the environment with your dad of small boats and the lake and exploring what it was like to harness the power of and magic of lift. And it was always about fun and how you, because you love what you did, you were much more interested in investing the time. And as a result of investing the time, we talk about 10,000 hours, you probably did 20,000 hours. But because you love what you did and you got better at it, you able to bring sailing to a very high level. So what is that like to be sailing and being around other high performing sailors?
Exactly. And to give an example, the lake, where I sailed in my hometown, Ostend, it's a small round lake, and I imagined for hours that I did the around the world race. So I sailed around 2, 3, 4 times, and yeah, I was alone on the lake, but I was in my mind, I was like you were making tunnels with the cardboards. I was having fun or being creative with what I had. So like you said, and the environment is really important because I had fun, I was able to put in a lot of training. And I think that's also important lesson, is that the environment is so important, and it's to have pleasure. From pleasure comes success, and not from and that's, I'm really advocate of this. It's not from success that comes pleasure. And to go even further with that is that in my or when I my observations or even some people who win medals, or some people who get married, or have another job or next job or a beautiful car, for me the why behind it is really important. Do you think it will give you pleasure or happiness, or is it part of your journey to grow? If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I have the nicest, most expensive car because I love the design and I feel one, and it's a really treat for my eye. Every time I see it, every time I ride it, I feel in a moment really happy for you. Do you buy it because you think it's part of success? And for me, that's the wrong reason. So yeah, why you go after it is really important. And that's also in my journey. In the beginning, my the first Olympic campaign I had, I went after it because I thought I was a big talent and it would come like this, and then I would be successful. But actually I had no idea. And so I completely ran into a wall because we didn't make the qualification, and actually looking backwards, so happy, so no happy, grateful I had this lesson, because then I switched it fully to growth mindset and really thinking why, because then I went away from this perfection because of this. I wanted to be perfect in training. I didn't train as hard or as good, because as long if I didn't train perfectly, it was not that good. So and to be able to improve, you need to fail and you need to try some new things and you need to capsize and need to fall into the water because you look for the limits. And that's the lesson I got there. And together with that, I thought and I thought it was my identity, Yannick the sailor. And when my friends introduced me to other people, they always said, "Hey, that's Yannick. That's this good sailor." And in the beginning, I liked that. Yeah, yeah, I'm this sailor, important and nice, and he's doing something special. But now I hate it. When they introduce me as this Olympic sailor, I hate it. For me, it would be nice to say, hey, Yannick, that he's been by my side already so much years. We've been gone to highs and lows together, and when I'm happy, I can call to him, and he will be so happy for me. I reach the moon, and when I'm down, I can call him, and if it's at midnight or in the morning, if he can, he will answer. And so it's not my identity anymore, and that's why I'm able to lose and to fail and to grow as a person and to get better at sailing as well now.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't realize that you're moving away from your identity as an Olympic sailor. I think I've been making too much of an emphasis on that. So I will correct that when you come back on the show. Tell us a little bit about this balancing of results and how that made you motivated to keep going versus just staying present and being that kid again, just loving being on the water, maybe collaborating with another sailor on your competitions. So there's that community, even if it's just two of you, you're creating community. How do you balance? Again, this is kind of our sub theme of today's Regenerate. How do you balance the results versus the doing versus the being?
That's really interesting, because when the results were not good, I felt literally like a loser, felt down, depressed even, because I had the feeling I failed. And so it didn't come overnight, but was a process where step by step I added more value to how I did it and to the effort I put in, to be proud of that. And a small story to emphasize that is that, for instance, I described the first campaign where I missed the qualification. After that, I went to Rio together with my teammate Tom at the time, and then we had the qualifications for Tokyo. So the qualification for London, I missed. I was devastated, but actually, there again was devastated because I was actually more disappointed in myself and how I did it compared to the results itself. And moving forward again to Tokyo, we missed the selection again one place, but we stepped off out of the boat, and our heads were held high. We felt good as a team, and we felt we had no regrets. And for me, that's all the difference, because we knew the effort we put in. We knew we had no regrets, and we stayed a team from the beginning till the end of this difficult event. And that was for me a big lesson to be much more or get much more importance, or give much more importance to the effort and how you do the things, and trying to be the best version of yourself, not perfection, not, but trying to be better every day. And it's so simple when you explain it, but it was so difficult. I cried a lot.
So difficult.
When we had bad results, and I felt like I was not deserving or whatever. But in the end, that's it's simple to explain. Now I feel some kind of wizard. Yeah, just do this or that. But no, it was I struggled a lot, and sometimes still. But the moments I'm able to control it, to say, okay, 5 minutes, let it out, and then we go back at it. And but to achieve this balance is, to add another point to that, is when I was sailing full time, I felt I was just playing around and not doing anything serious, if that makes sense. So I needed something. I attached a lot of value and purpose to it, and that was the actually, when I lost this qualification again, grateful. That's when I started to work with Mathieu Gram and Gram and in QLX. So I needed this purpose next to the sailing, and which helped me to get a lot of things into perspective. And at the end of the day, if I was able to help somebody versus a bad result, but I went sailing in good weather, I can eat. I mean, we're as sailors, we often joke a bad day on the water is still better than a good day at the office. But for me, what's much more being able to know I was getting closer to my purpose. So actually, as I'm a better athlete if I have something next to it, instead of like, this is your life, this is your thing, and if you're not doing well, you're failing at life. And that's something I encourage other athletes or persons, to, even if it's something small, to have some hobby or something that means a lot to you next to it, maybe studies or but to watch out, to be really narrow-minded or narrow focused just on that one thing.
Wow, so inspiring. I mean, there's a couple key insights that our listeners who listened to Mathieu Graham, the first episode of Regenerate, just like your story, I was confusing my identity, my self-worth with my results. Came from an overachieving corporate life and pivoted to a solopreneur life, and the results were not happening. And turned to Mathieu to help me rewire my identity. And that is not easy work. And as you said, you cry a lot because you have to kind of mourn the old Yannick, the old Dave, and that growth mindset of embracing the suck embracing the suckiness of the new identity that's emerging before it's actually creating the kind of results or outcomes or impact that you want to create. To your point about purpose, it's a spiritual growth opportunity, isn't it?
Yes, and like in the intro, there's this really important word I heard is courage, and it's not for me a big point as well was having the courage to do it, and often people are a bit anxious or scared, but you need to have the trust. If something doesn't go well, you will you will manage it, and the trust that it will that when something doesn't go well, the trust that will be okay in the end. And that's for me a really big one, because are you doing stuff because you're scared it will not go as planned, or are you doing stuff because, hey, that's something cool, that's something nice, let's have the courage to try and get it. And if we talk about the sailing, at the starting line, you need to start, or we talk about sailing, but I think it's for all the sports or in or studies or at work. Do you take the decisions because you try to give your best shot, or do you take decisions trying not to lose or not to make something wrong, and then you're always like you're not in your best range of mindset of I agree, sometimes you need to be careful strategy wise, you need to be controlled, less risks, I agree, but and then again, like we talked, it has his advantages and disadvantages, and you need to know when to use what. So that's really important for me. The qualification event we went in, I needed to accept that maybe I didn't go to the games, and that, but I wanted to sail like I had an idea I wanted to approach the event and the strategy and tactical. If I didn't go to the games, I wanted to be able to say, okay, but I sailed how I wanted to sail, and I gave my all, and I tried my best. So for myself, I needed to accept that maybe I wouldn't go. Then it liberated a bit for, okay, maybe we don't go. We accept it. That's the worst case scenario. I will still have nice family, the best girlfriend, and being able and healthy. So you have nothing to lose, and that's important to be able to. I think the really great champions have this ability to leave it all and just trying to win, and then we see what happens.
But I think as we start to wind down our show today, the power of having a third party, a coach, to be a little bit self-serving. But I have a coach, Chris Rue, out of Wales. I suspect that you, like you had Mathieu, you probably have other coaches in your life, trusted advisors, to help us get across that chasm of the known identity and the emerging identity, and the courage that it takes. It's not the absence of fear, it's in spite of the fear, mustering the courage to cross that chasm with that growth mindset. Way more fun to do that with somebody else. Would, as a coach now for high performing executives and leaders, What are you finding is the greatest value that you can bring your clients, knowing what you know now about growth mindset, identity shifts, transformation, courage?
Well, for me, my strength as a coach is I don't look at it like, hey, this is my service. This is what I can provide. Is that I am flexible and I try to be of added value. Like how can I make or help the ship go faster? And it depends where I am needed or where I place myself in that journey. But being able to help somebody to live how they want to live, that's really what makes me tick, let's say. And because everybody has its hurdles and difficult things, and when you're alone you have these dead angles you don't see or you're not aware of. And it's not that the coach is a special person, but it's somebody that helps you give perspective and accountability. Because I think a lot of people have the knowledge, a lot more knowledge that you would think, but everybody has its hurdles and difficulties, and it's to help to cope with that. And like you said, it's not in spite of fear. It's the stress will be there, but how will you manage it? How will you even use it, maybe? And how you see it as something negative, positive. So that's the interesting part.
Well, and to bring us full circle, you mentioned early on about the challenges when you were growing up, but also currently as a professional. That discomfort, is it going to kill you and you really do need to pay attention to it? Is the discomfort, something new that you would love to do, or is it something that's not aligned with your purpose? And I think a coach can really help tease out which are the primary drivers of that discomfort, and to help you, the client, become more comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly. And when you start to feel that this upward spiral, that getting uncomfortable gives you growth and you feel better, and it's you create this upward spiral, and that's when you really experience and see the growth, and that's really fulfilling for me.
Yeah. Well, I hope you had fun, and I'd love to have you return at some point later in the year. Our next port of call, helping us navigate through the messy middle of her own transformation, I'll be chatting with Dr. Bonita Thompson. Bonita's a New York Times bestselling author. She's ranked in the top 3 Global 30 gurus in the field of education and the Thinkers 50 leading coaches. She's a collaborative leadership scientist and earned her PhD in collaborative leadership. She teaches and coaches high-performance leaders and their teams specific collaboration skills to achieve their goals faster and more effectively. So I invite you to join us next Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. CET for the 6th episode of the Regenerate Show. And our theme will be Beyond Goals. So with Benita's help, we'll stop overanalyzing our goals, engage the whole human system, hold goals softly, make them playful, kind of echoing what Yannick was mentioning before, and let values, not pressure, lead. And when goals are set and pursued this way, we're much less likely to burn out. So I know your investment of time will be well spent. So we hope you experienced our promise to have fun today, to be inspired, to be empowered. And on behalf of Yannick and our entire Talk4 Media team, I invite you to stay healthy, stay safe. We need you. And consider reviewing your notes from our show and applying just one idea today. and consider only you can close the gap between knowing and doing to accelerate your personal, professional, and organizational transformation. I promise I'll personally read any of your constructive comments so we can continuously improve and to add greater value to you on the show. Yannick, thanks again for joining us. See you next week. We're better together.
Thank you for listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave on K4HD Radio. We invite you to give yourself grace and embrace the messy middle. See you every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Until then, you got this.